Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today, Wednesday, May 25th, in the year 2022. Welcome all. And you know the drill by now. Let's share the stream. Let's invite others to join us. We are here again for another episode on this bright and joyous morning. So let's share the stream and let's let others know that we're on. And I know people are joining. People are coming in all the time. You can see the numbers are going up. So share the stream. Let them know. And you know the usual preamble. We will encourage all to join, share the stream. Denise, good morning. Welcome. You're early this morning. I noticed Lenny find you. You don't want to be paying this pay any longer, so you're here very early this morning. That's a good thing. Always make sure that you are early for duty. You know, they say the early bird catches the worm. So make sure you're there early. Welcome, Sister Trifosa. Welcome to this other episode. We're here in the land of the living. It's good to be here this morning. This morning promises to be a very interesting morning. Very interesting. Again, I have my good friend and co-accused, perhaps now I have to call him co-host. Mr. Clinton Conway is already in the studio and he is rearing to go. So we have lots of things to speak about this morning. So while I await and while I go into this preamble, I ask you to share the stream. As I usually say, we are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube. So for those persons who are, a lot of people are not on Facebook, you can direct them to YouTube and they are going to be able to follow us live. Permission granted, Terence. Permission for you to join the parade is granted. Fall in and cover down. If you want to join the parade, fall in and cover down. You're within the grace period. So welcome. As I said, today promises to be a very interesting morning. We have some nice subjects to go into. Again, a few weeks ago, I had said that we would have been talking about traffic, but things keep intervening all the time, and I don't think we're able to go to traffic this morning. In the notification, I indicated that we are going to address the challenge to the appointment of the acting commissioner. We're going to spend some time on that. And there have been other issues. We have the Ballers issue. That's the special constable who we know alleged that she was spat upon. She was chased out of the yard. And we need to talk a little bit about that. And there are also other issues. You would have seen that viral video yesterday of the traffic police who was assaulted and he responded. So we're gonna address that as well. There was also the issue yesterday with Pastor Landon. I think that's his correct designation, who was in front of the DPP's chamber, and then he was put out by the police. We are going to address that this morning too. So we have some very, very interesting subjects. And for this morning in particular, I would ask all of those who are, I don't want to call them names, but you know who I refer to. They look with the sole purpose of trying to find fault and to say that they are defamed. I have some teaching, some lessons for them this morning. So they think they should get their notebooks out and stand by to take some notes, because I have seen some things circulated in recent times which are very, very worrying. It tells me that the people who are there sitting in the chair or the chairs, they don't know the regulations, they don't know what is going on, they're not seeking advice, or if they seek advice, they're not getting the correct advice, and that is perhaps they are going to the wrong person. So share the stream, and we are going to get started in a short while. I think your appetite has been whetted there, and therefore you anxious for me to get started. Welcome, Lenny. Welcome, Lenny. As a matter of fact, Lenny last at the funeral, Mr. Hudson's funeral on Saturday, a retired senior police officer came to ask me, who is this Lenny I keep referring to, because he thought perhaps it would have been the deceased Lenny Hudson. So I had to tell him who you are. I don't think he knew you, but I had to explain to him who you are. So share the stream. People are joining all the time. Yes, good morning, Vibort. Good morning, Vibort. Natasha, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here and we are ready to go. We are ready to go. Where do I start? I want to start by offering my, well, when we start, people say, look, they don't like this death announcement thing. So, well, it is not, when death occurs, I think we have a responsibility to advise on it. I don't think we have any to announce about any police, but I want to take this opportunity to express sincere condolences to Mr. Conway on the passing of his brother. He advised me sometime during the week or last week, it might have been, that one of his elder brothers passed away. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of myself, my family, perhaps on behalf of all the viewers, to speaking out, to express our sincere condolences to CC on the passing of his brother. Now, having done that, I think it is the opportune time. Well, I would say let's rejoice, and be to be in the land of the living. We said this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We have to be thankful that we are in the land of the living. And I think at this time, it's a good opportunity for me to bring Mr. Conway into the studio to join me. Morning, CC, good morning and welcome.
Morning, thank you. Last week, Paul, I asked you to hold your hands with this dead announcement, but perhaps you took a different action and you put your hand on me. Yes.
I would never do that. I would never do that. It's the Lord's will. It's the Lord's will. When the big man, when the Lord decides it's time for us to go, we have to go. All of us have to go someday, and that is why we should live our lives in a manner pleasing to the Almighty.
Yes, he died last Friday, good age 76, and it's the will of the Lord, and he'll be buried on next Saturday at Kokwani, Blessing Borbis River. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all those who in many ways have sympathized to me, expressed sympathy to me and my family on the passing of my big brother. And he was a real big brother, a real big brother.
Yes, I know it's not easy to lose a loved one. Having said that, you're not talking about losing a loved one. I was devastated yesterday when I saw on Facebook, and then I immediately went to CNN to see the death of those children in Texas. I mean, this thing is, the world has gone mad. They told now this morning, I think it's 19 children around the age of 10 and 2 adults that were killed by this madman. Something is wrong when people, you have to call them deranged people, can put their hands on weapons of mass killing, air-type rifle, just walk into this school and kill these innocent children. That was really upset me yesterday, because I know of children who of that age. I have grandchildren who are around that age, and it was really upsetting to see that playing out in Texas yesterday.
Yeah, it was really upsetting for you, Paul.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned the funeral of our late colleague, retired Assistant Commissioner Lloyd Hudson. We know him as Lenny Hudson. I mean, the funeral was there last Saturday. You were there, I was there. They had you had a good turnout. I traveled to Borbis. I was encouraged to go to Borbis, and it was indeed a wonderful turnout. But I couldn't help noting that there was no representation from the force. I noted during the course of the tributes, it was announced that the police choir will make a musical rendition, and three females who I assume were part of the choir came, they sang a song, and immediately after they left. And later in the program, towards the end, a person was dressed in a sergeant. He blew the last post and the reveille. So I think that, I suspect that he too might have been a member of the force. But it's really worrying to me that a senior officer, retired senior officer, passed. No tribute from the Guyana Police Force. I saw some people from the Ex-Police Association were there. No tribute on behalf of the Ex-Police Association. I thought that would have been the least they could have done. Somebody could have gone there and say something on behalf of the force, and also say something, somebody from the Ex-Police Association, say something on behalf of the Ex-Police Association, on us ex-police. But while the turnout was, I would say, massive, both in Tongue and in Borbies, the fact that there was no tribute on behalf of the force or the ex-police association struck me as being unsatisfactory. What did you observe that? What are your views?
I observe it, and it appears to be a trend, a pattern. I remember when Christopher Griffith, Assistant Commissioner, died. There was a viewing at the police sports club of all places instead of the police officers' mess. And not a single serving junior or senior member of the Ghana police was present. I was there from beginning to end, and not one of them to pay the respect to a man who gave so much dedicated and excellent service to the Ghana police. So it's nothing strange. It's a trend, it's a pattern, but hope they will stop it and correct it.
Well, if it's they might have been an oversight, but I know they listen. And I hope they take the note, because what will it take from them? A person was served all these years as past, and I would think that the least they can do is to go and offer some tribute on behalf of the organization. I was even more disappointed that no one from the Ex-Police Association paid a tribute, because I would think that association represents ex-policemen, even if they're not active members, that we are ex-policemen, and one would expect them to. I was very supportive of that organization, and the members know I was very supportive of them. But I have to reconsider, because what are you supporting? All that is going on in the force, they are very silent. So I don't think that they deserve any further support from me. So I will have to think about that. Now, the next thing is, I would like to congratulate all of us Guyanese as we celebrate 56 years as an independent country. Remember, it was on the 26th of May, 1956 at midnight, that the Union Jack, the flag of England, was lowered, and the golden arrowhead was raised for the first time. So congratulations to all of us Guyanese. Um, Tomorrow or tonight, the 56th anniversary of our independence. And I recall, for those people who are who like trivia, I noticed some this morning. I did know that the person who hoisted the flag, the golden arrowhead, for the first time was Desmond Roberts. He retired some years. I think he was head of the National Service, a colonel in the Army, Colonel Desmond Roberts. So it's our independence anniversary, and I think we should all celebrate. I know people are going to ask questions. What have we achieved in the 56 years? That is not for this program. This is perhaps for another discussion. But I think we all should be glad that we are around to see another independence anniversary. CC?
Yeah, I agree with you. And happy anniversary to all Guyanese. Although I observed that the flag raising has been shifted to West. I think it's Anna Regina or somewhere around there.
Oh my. So I guess it's been watered down. Now, the next thing I wanted to tell you about is, I've been telling you about the PSC case, where the police service commissioner challenged the what we call unlawful suspension. I gave you some dates. The matter was heard. Matters were to be sent in, arguments were to be sent in the 10th, responded to by the 13th, and the full court was scheduled to give the decision on the 20th. The decision has not been handed down. I'm advised that it is likely to be given today, sometime today. The full court is to give a decision as to whether the appeal that was filed by the Attorney General, whether that will stand or what is the way forward thereafter. So that is today. and I thought I'll keep you up to date with that happening. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the same video. I think most of us would have seen the video. I saw it yesterday and I did not realize that it was something that occurred yesterday morning. You know, when these things appear on social media, sometimes it's weeks and days, sometimes even months after. But when I saw it first, then later on with the statements that were made, I realized that it was an incident that occurred yesterday morning. I'm referring to the incident where the traffic ramp in New Amsterdam, according to the release, stopped or spoke to a taxi driver. And the video is there for us to see. The taxi driver attacked the police. The police responded. And I mean, a lot of people laugh over it. To put it in stark Guyanese parlance, the police block you out. The police block you out. Now, I am caught in two minds in responding to this. I have the professional response, and I have the response that is natural. And let me tell you that my natural response, having regards to the fact that over the weeks and months and years, you see in these videos where policemen are attacked and beaten and bitten and spat upon by people. So when I saw this, my first reaction was, well done, well done. And I said it, and I'm not going to be sanctimonious because I said this because to say that I believe that I may have responded the same way as a young constable. I may have responded the same way. From the professional point of view, I want to make the point. It is clear that the policeman was attacked. The policeman had every right, every justification to use force to defend himself. The question as to the degree of force is one to be considered by some tribunal, perhaps, or some authority. But one cannot, having looked at that video, one cannot deny that the policeman had every right to defend himself because he was attacked by the taxi driver and he responded, he defended himself, and he subdued the taxi driver. CC, did you see the video? If you did, what is your response?
I saw the video and I haven't gotten any other information what caused the reaction from both parties. But use of force is always a reactive process that the police will react to the suspect's action. Use of force is difficult. Sometimes it is a necessary part of the job to determine what is reasonable and what is reasonable sometimes is very highly subjective. I remember lecturing to police ranks about the use of force. And I always remember American case, 1989, Graham versus Connors. And the court held, I have a little note of it. This is what the court held. The calculus of reasonableness was embodied allowance for the fact that the police officers are often forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving about the amount of force that is necessary in a particular situation. They said the standard according to this decision is the reasonably objective officer. Was it reasonable? And a use of force expert talk about 3 rules in the use of force. He said 1, must go home the same way when you went to work, alive. 2, do not go to prison. And 3, keep your job. And he posited that the use of force is reasonable, that the use of force is reasonable. When it's reasonable, is that you protect yourself, you protect the agency, you protect the agency, you protect even the individual. And if you have some doubt about the use of force, He's saying a resort to rule number one, that you go home the same way as when you went to work, alive. And I haven't gotten all the facts in the matter, but the thing is, was it reasonable? And for me, the use of force displayed by that young constable was reasonable.
Well, I form the same view. Well said. Well said. I form the same view. The policeman was attacked. And once you attack a policeman, as somebody said in the comments, in the US, you attack a policeman, chances are you're dead. You're going to be a dead man. You are going to be a dead man. So the old story is, as you rightly pointed out, it's about the degree of force that is used, because one cannot doubt that if you are attacked, a policeman in uniform, the
Yep.
policeman is in uniform and in public, and he's attacked by this taxi driver. I think he had all right to defend himself, which he did. As I've said, the question gonna be asked at some stage, perhaps, if the degree of force used. But I think he used enough force to subdue the attacker. And I read that the man who sits in the chair of the commissioner is saying that they're going to do an investigation. Well, let's hope they do a proper, objective investigation and they don't look to cowboy this police. Because, as I've said, you have to take it, you have to view it in the background, you have to have some, put it in context. All the previous tapes that we would have seen with interaction between the police and civilian people, police on the receiving end, people biting police, people beating police, people spitting from police, they're doing all kind of thing to the police. So on this one occasion that the police responded to protect himself, I hope that the authorities will take all of that into consideration. All of that should be taken into consideration. These things cannot be viewed in isolation, should not be viewed in isolation. And we await to hear what the authorities will say about this investigation that I understand that is launched. Now, in moving on, I did in the notification, we said that we're going to talk about the challenge to the appointment of the commissioner, acting commissioner of police. You know, there's a challenge, I think, in my parliament, and the opposition chief whip, Mr. Christopher Jones, has challenged the appointment, and that is before the court. I know we're not going to go into the details and all of that, but CC, what are your views in that?
Challenge long overdue. And I wrote about it, and I wish to repeat it, that the Constitution is very, very clear for the appointment of a commissioner or acting commissioner, that the president has to get meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the Police Service Commission, who would have consulted with other members. And even in acting, the Public Service Commission rules states that the next senior man should act. There was no consultation, and the advisors for the president made an horrible attempt to shelter him under the doctrine of necessity. That's an old and antiquated doctrine that is very seldom used. I think it was used in Grenada in 85, in Nigeria in 2010, and sometime in Pakistan in the 50s or thereabout. The thing is clear, there must be meaningful consultation. You can't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to make this man a acting commissioner, as the case may be. It's wrong, all wrong. There are too many overhanging or dangling, you have political, legal, and other issues in relation to that appointment. It is unlawful, and it calls for judicial review. And I'm happy that someone has got the guts to challenge it. And they need to challenge it, even if it go right down to the CCJ. The president is a creature of the Constitution, and he has to bow down to the Constitution. I remember a couple of years ago when R.B. Norton was General Secretary for the PNC. and Desmond Height was the leader. And he said that Arbie Norton wasn't keeping his short in his pants. And he dismissed Arbie Norton and he said, Arbie, the general secretary, is a creature of the leader. And therefore the leader appointed him and the leader can send him home. Vice versa, the president is a creature of the Constitution and he must bow down to the Constitution. He must slavishly adhere to the Constitution. And to use the words of Nandalal in the Duncan case, when he said the president, he was talking about Granger, has flagrantly violated the letter, spirit, and intent of some of the most sacrosanct constitutional procedures. And he didn't stop there. He said in democratic countries, president and prime minister, as the case may be, have been impeached for far less. So things mustn't be left hanging. It calls for serious judicial review, if it means to go all the way to CCJ. The president, whoever the president is, must abide to the Constitution, Paul.
Well said, well said. And let me say this because I looked at some, when this matter is carried in social media and in the newspaper, you read the comments, and some people, misguided I think they are, they will tell you, oh, the man is a good man, leave the man alone. Some people bring in ethnic considerations and all of that. The question is not whether the man is a good man. I have already made my views very clear about that. There is nothing that has happened to cause me to change my views. The question is the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, lays out a procedure for the appointment of the Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner, Article 211.1. And then Article 211.2 says that if you want to put people to act in those positions, the same procedure as in 211.1 should be followed. That is what the Constitution says. And I'm reminded that not so long ago, if you recall, in June of 2021, the Police Service Commission had the same issue where with the suspension, because the provisions as laid out in Article 225 were not followed. And here again, you have a situation less than a year where provisions that are laid out in the Constitution are not followed. And as I've said before, this is not a question about the individual. The individual can be as bright as the North Star. The individual can be the most brilliant light or the sharpest tool in the shed, which of course this individual is not. That is not the point. The point is a provision has been laid out in the Constitution. And if you're talking about us operating with the rule of law in a democratic society, then we must follow it. And I want to say to those people too, don't try to make excuse. The mere fact, if you look and read about the doctrine of necessity, you will see that from the time the claim was made that the doctrine of necessity was invoked, that is an admission. That is an admission that the provisions of the Constitution were not followed. But you're saying that you had cause, you had reasons, you had good reasons, sufficient reason and cause not to follow. And that should be contested. That should be contested. So I was very, very pleased when I saw the matter challenged. And I thought that we need to say this to address the comments about some misguided, I call them misguided people who are now looking at the individual. This is nothing about the individual. This is about a process that is laid out in the Constitution. And according to the application made, and if you read the pleadings, that process was not followed. And we need the judiciary to pronounce on that. And as you have said, even if it has to go all the way to the apex court, let's go there. Because if you don't do that, these things are left as bad precedents. Because once these precedents are set, then you know how the law works. People say, well, in that case, that is what was done and that was accepted. So let's get the ruling on it as to whether it is the right procedure was followed or not. Anything more on that, CC?
I'm happy that you mentioned the rule of law because we live in Guyana. This is not North Korea. where the ruler is supreme. This is Guyana, and we must follow the laws. We must follow the constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And nobody must be allowed to breach it and get flagrantly violate it and get away with it. No way, Paul, no way.
All right, and moving on. I noted over the past few weeks or so, we have seen a lot of the recommissioning, I should say, of police stations, opening of outposts. Last week or the week before, I made my views known about outposts, and to repeat for those who might not have been there. From a tactical perspective, I have an issue with outposts because when you put outposts, an outpost really is a miniature version of a police station. And sometimes the question that comes up is whether they are really equipped and capable of responding to the need of the area, of the people in the area that they serve. So I have an issue with that. But I think it's a good thing to see police stations being refurbished because, again, I also mentioned, I think earlier this year, that police work and live in atrocious conditions. So the fact that efforts are being made to refurbish police stations, I guess to make people more comfortable, policemen, and even people who interact with the police, even prisoners, more comfortable, I think is a good thing. However, the police station is just a building. And if we're going to talk about improvement of service, it can be left to just the building. We have to talk now about the people who are going to be in that building. We have to talk about the equipment that is going to be provided um, to the people in that building. CC?
Yeah, Paul. They I'm happy that they're improving the living conditions or the working conditions at this station. And it's not nothing new. It was part of what the Citizens Security Program. I can remember Minister Clement Rory was in charge of that when he was in government there. But as you rightly said, to build new police stations, to refurbish new police stations, you heard me? Hello? Let's see. Paul.
Yeah, we are hearing you. You're hearing you. You can go ahead.
Okay, but I wasn't certain whether you were hearing me.
Yes,
Now,
we are hearing you. Go ahead.
good. It was part of the Citizen Security Program where they reconfigure police stations to ensure that they have what you call proper system in place, like domestic violence room, two-way mirrors where persons were afraid to identify suspects can see them through the mirror, where they had IT rooms and a whole set of facilities to make the police work a little more efficient and effective. But establishing outposts, I don't agree with them. No proper study was done. And then it's called for a manpower situation. There gotta be a lot of clear thinking. Where is this manpower is gonna come from? We have instances where over the past 2 years, the police force has not recruited one single recruit. They blame it on COVID and other things. And now they're running problems in terms of having manpower, running problem with the oil and gas industry, with the mining industry. We heard that 3 gold mines will be coming into place larger than Omai. We know that they having problem also. Recently, they had a tourism authority where I think some ship cruise liner came in and they were looking at getting people to be part of that system. And also the police are also running competition with the security services. They're running competition with their own members of the dispensary to get people where the manpower is going to come from. We heard recently that the government is going to employ 40,000 people as part time. So police got to look seriously in terms of where this manpower going to come from, and not where they come from, where they're going to, how they're going to retain them, and the conditions of service. So the whole lot of issues you got to look at. Not only just setting up building. It's just a building and nothing else. The human resource is important. Is it the people who got to do the work? And that's my take so far.
Well, thanks. And apart from that, you're right. You have more, well, not necessarily station. We're talking about outposts, new outposts. You're talking about a situation where you're not recruiting, and at the same time, attrition. You're losing people. You're losing people. And one of the things I wanted us to talk about this morning, perhaps you have to wait until next week, is the fact that you're now saying that your entry standards, your entry requirement are going to be more demanding, because I understand they're going to be talking now about three subjects, CXC as against prime secondary, or what they call some secondary. I agree that you should have qualified people joining, but we just say this in context to say that if you are not recruiting, you're losing people, and then you are going to be opening out posts. So the little resources that you have is going to be thinner on the ground. So I don't know, and well, I shouldn't say I don't know. A lot of these decisions are political. No proper assessment has been made. People just come and say, "Oh, you're going to look good if you open up police station at Cummings Lodge, if our outpost at Cummings Lodge." So therefore, we can later say that we did this and we did that. But how effective would the response be? That is another question. So let's wait and see what will
Let
happen
me
there.
just put in a point there with the outpost. The outposts, they appear to me to be political decisions and not operational priorities. For instance, I heard on a couple of occasions the Minister of Housing and Water announcing that a police station would a police outpost would be established. Not the commissioner, not the Minister of Affairs, but the Minister of Housing. Say we're gonna open outposts and so be. Then nothing from the commission, as the case may be. It look like purely politics. No proper studies being done. And then again too, they at the police last the conference, they had big discussion in terms of boots on the ground. And they're talking about safe city will replace boots on the ground. So you're talking about safe city, the cameras I got will replace boots on the ground, and you're hustling now to establish police outposts. What hypocrisy.
Yeah, well, exactly. And just one correction: you mentioned that when the Citizen Security Program started, um, you mentioned Mr. Rui's name. I just want to correct you there because I was the point person with the
I,
Citizen Security
I
Program.
know, and I know, and Henry Green take away the work from you, man. So he should be the man in charge
Yes,
and not.
when Mr. Roni became in 2006, when Mr. Roni became minister, that program was already running. Ms. Gail Teixeira was holding on at Home Affairs. I was the point person on behalf of the police, and so therefore is a correction. I'm gonna give them the
Yes.
credit that they don't deserve.
Okay.
That program predates Mr. Rui as Home Affairs minister. Now the next
Well,
issue I
well
want us to address.
now they get a citizen security strengthening program. Perhaps there's a follow up to the previous one. Citizen security
All right,
program.
because
There's
that program,
strengthening
that I
program.
could
Yeah.
tell you with the citizen security program, I was a point person, and even with the computer, the computers and that type of thing, I was the person dealing with that, interview and recruit persons and all of that. We
Yeah.
dealt with that. Miss Me and a lady from Miss D'Souza was the coordinator at the ministry. We were the person dealing with that. And I could say this, that when the citizen security program was designed, we had issues because they only catered for certain areas in region 4, and we had to make an argument and justification. I remember attending a meeting at the IDB office in Main Street there with Dr. Lunchan and all of these people to make an argument for West Demerara and other areas to be brought. And the IDB did agree, and those areas were brought in. So I have good institutional knowledge about that program. Now, the next subject that I want us to address is the issue relating to this female special constable who made allegations that she was spat on, she was assaulted. We know that she filed private criminal charge. She also brought civil lawsuit. And I don't want to go into the issue with the DPP. The DPP has null pros the private criminal. People were asking the question. I saw in the comments people saying, well, it's a private criminal charge, and whether the DPP has the authority to intervene. From my knowledge, according to the Constitution, I think it's Article 187, the DPP has authority over all criminal charges, whether it's public criminal charge, and public criminal charges are brought like by the police and Canu and customs, or whether it's private criminal charges, as in this case, the DPP is the authority. That is the Constitution. But these things, I noted that the law is saying that they're going to seek judicial review. And I believe these things should be reviewed because not so long ago, in the Marcus Bistrom case, you can recall the Marcus Bistrom was discharged by the magistrate in that murder case. The preliminary inquiry, the magistrate discharged Marcus Bistrom. The DPP, as she was empowered to do under the, I think it's a Summary Jurisdiction Procedures Act, the Criminal Jurisdiction Procedure Act, instructed the magistrate to reopen the case and to commit Bistrom to stand trial in the High Court. That was challenged. It went all the way up to the CCJ, and the CCJ ruled that that section in the law violates the Constitution, and I think they went on to say that in such case, the DPP should not be the sole arbiter, the sole authority to say the matter should be, the person should be committed. I think based on what I read is that they now have to go before a judge to review the matter, and the judge can intervene. So yes, the powers are there, but it's how the powers are used. Now, the part of the Bollers case that I want to comment on is that I saw that the Bollers applied for permission to withdraw from the Guyana police force, from the police force. She wrote and said that she wanted to withdraw immediately from the Guyana police force. And I saw a letter signed by the man who sits in the chair at the commission. Let me read what it says. It is dated the 16th May, and it is addressed to Woman Special Constable 15555, I think is it, Bollers. It says, in accordance with the provisions of Section 77 of the Police Act, Chapter 60-1, your withdrawal from the Guyana Police Force Special Constabulary is approved, and your service as a constable is hereby terminated, effect from the 8th of June 2022. You'll be paid up to and until the 7th of June 2022. Well, I did my research. Section 77 of the Police Act does not give authority to terminate any service. Let me read what Section 77 says. Section 77 says, any member of the Special Constabulary may, except when called out for full-time service, resign from the Special Constabulary by giving the Minister, in the case of officers, and the Commissioner, in all other cases, 1 month in writing. Then it go on to say, provided that any such notice may, in any fit case, be dispensed with. So, Section 77 that they're quoting to terminate the service does not support this. Section 77 speaks about the person wanting to withdraw. But then again, how can you approve a letter to withdraw and then in the same letter go on to say that you're terminating the person's service? What really is going on? Who is advising these people? As I know it, and I got confirmation this morning from people who are considered the experts. 77, as I just read, says that if you want to withdraw, that is the section that is used for officers and other ranks from the Special Constabulary. If they, and this is it, they should take out the book now and make a note, or they can go back to the recording later and see this part. If the question of termination comes into play, the authority is Article 212.3 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I gotta read it them. They gotta do all the schoolwork. I know they're lazy intellectually and otherwise, but having given them the reference, I would want them to go and read it. Article 212.3 of the Constitution, that is where the termination comes under. Not Section 77, not Section 77. So I don't know what is going on. I don't know what is going on. You're approving a person's application to withdraw, and then saying that you are terminating the service from a future date. Remember, this person has to withdraw or to rejoin immediately, but they are now um, terminating it from a future date. See what really going on in this place? What really going on in that building?
I remember hearing some words issued by Mr. George Jackman, who was a DPP. We were doing weakness, competent, and compellability. And he said, when you are incompetent and you try your incompetent best, you are still incompetent. So that's what I need to say to those people. They are incompetent and they're trying their incompetent best. They are still incompetent. And I just want to go back a bit to the DPP, Paul. Many times, my layman's view, I wonder what really is going on in the DPP's office. Sometimes I wonder whether the office is political. I can recall when charges were filed against Nandalal, Dr. Irfan Ali, Dr. Ashley Singh, and others. After a change in government, the DPP null pros those matters. I don't know if by then a change of government and they had fresh and compelling evidence. And we see what is going on now with the other side now, who are the members of the opposition, where the DPP have to recommend charges. I wonder if there'll be a change of government if they're going to null pros. And for me, it is high time that persons start challenge the authority of the DPP. You mentioned what happened with the previous case, what the CCJ did, that people must start challenge them and carry them straight to the CCJ so that we can have proper decisions. Some of those laws that are there, they have not been challenged. We just accept them as it is. Challenge them, man. Let's go to court and let us have judicial review. Even in this SC case,
Well, the,
I'm,
the
I'm,
the lawyer representing Bonners, the lawyer representing Bonners did indicate that they are challenging and they're gonna. So let's see where that goes. Let's see
yeah,
where that goes. The next thing about the same issue, Bonners has been demonstrating outside the office of the DPP in Rabitua. And I think the first couple of days she was alone, and then she was joined by some others. The police erect barriers. I saw a very disturbing incident yesterday when I think Pastor London it is
yeah,
turned up there to demonstrate in support of the police. He is alleging, I did not see that part, but he's alleging that when he arrived there, the barrier was not extended across the road. So you know the block off on the northern part of Rabitua, the block off there bars across the road. So he said that when he got there, there were two bars at the end, but the middle was open. So he walked and he went closer to the DPP's office. The police then, a sergeant, asked him to go beyond the barrier. He questioned the sergeant why would he been put beyond the barrier. Sergeant did not give an explanation. Apparently, it was an exchange of word. At which stage, the sergeant called two constables who were there to put him. And I think they physically, he alleged, I did not see that they physically held him and put him beyond the barrier. But what disturbed me is the fact that he was there asking them for their numbers because they had on what we call bulletproof vest, they had on body armor. So their regulation number could not have been displayed. He was asking them for the name and number. They refused. They refused to give the name and number. The sergeant had on his uniform. His number was a name were visible. So he mentioned that. Well, let me say this. Let me say this. Again, we say we're not in North Korea or one of those um, countries. We are in Guyana. People talk about democracy. People talk about the rule of law. Every citizen has a right to demonstrate as long as they do so lawfully. And from my experience, and I'm speaking here from the experience of a senior police officer, from a man who was operational over the years, commanded several divisions, commanded several departments, including the TSU, people have a right to protest. And the rule that was normally applied is as long as they don't impede the traffic, as long as they don't block ingress or egress, they are allowed to protest and to demonstrate. If it's a and again, let us take out the notes, take out the neck note. If it's a what they call an industrial protest, if they're protesting some industrial action, yeah, they're allowed to protest. But then the law says they should keep moving. They can't be static. They should keep moving, and they should wear
Armband,
mark peaceful picket.
picketing. Yeah.
Again, as long as they don't block the traffic, as long as they don't impede the traffic, as long as they don't block ingress or egress, then they are within their rights to do so. And again, with if it's a case where it's a public meeting, which is covered under the Public Order Act, Chapter 1603, if it's a public meeting, then they are separate requirements. For example, and again, I'm teaching them because people believe that if you want to have a public meeting, you have to seek the permission of the police. That is not so. There's no law that says that you have to get the police permission to hold a public meeting. What the Public Order Act says that if you want to hold a public meeting, you have to give notification to the appropriate officer of police. And the appropriate officer of police is defined in the Act as the person in charge of the station closest to which the meeting to be held. So, and then if you're going to use noisy instrument, then you have to apply for a separate permission to use noisy instrument. So if you're demonstrating and you want to use a loudaler, you want to use any noisy instrument, you have to get the permission from the police to use noisy instrument, but not to demonstrate in itself, not to hold a public meeting. If you are going to have a procession under the Public Order Act, is a different thing. If you have to have a procession, then you have to get permission from the chief officer of police. Remember, meeting is the appropriate officer, procession is the chief officer of police, and the chief officer of police is defined as the police officer in charge of the police division in which the procession is to be kept. So those for the young policemen, subordinate officers, and all of that who are listening, take note. And again, I say to you, you don't have to be disrespectful. When these unlawful and stupid orders are given to you, you must want to bring these things to their attention and let them know. Because at the end of the day, you can't use the excuse that you were ordered to do so, because I have said repeatedly that no one can be compelled to carry out an unlawful order. The Nuremberg Tribunal said that. The tribunal into My Lai in Vietnam said that. You can't order someone to commit an unlawful act. And if the person commits the unlawful act, they can't use the excuse that they were ordered and therefore they were only following order. All the persons in the Second World War that were charged with those offenses, the Nazis, that was the excuse. They were ordered to do so, and as good soldiers, they were executed. The tribunal held that you cannot use that as an excuse. You're a reasonable person, and you ought to have known that those orders are unlawful, and you cannot be compelled to carry out unlawful orders. CC.
I agree with you, Paul, and you gave them some very good knowledge there. I hope they go back and box the books and make sure that they follow the law. The rule of law must prevail. I myself saw the video with Pastor London. They blocked the road. Nothing can come in or out. Well, I didn't have the opportunity to see if any vehicle was approaching either way. But it's a peaceful demonstration, and persons must be allowed to peacefully demonstrate. As you mentioned, they're not disturbing anybody, they're not preventing persons from entering or leaving, and it's not a massive crowd that the police can't control. Why can one person or a couple of persons demonstrate peacefully? Police must follow the law and not political directives. And I'm almost certain that was political directive. Remove them. They mustn't
Want to get close to that, please.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking a question. Let me address it. Joko, JT Co, can the police refuse to take orders that are can they refuse to take orders that does not support the law? Let me say this: the Police Act. When we talk about the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, it speaks Section 4C, and I don't have to refer. I know it out of here. Section 4C says it's an offense to disobey a lawful order given to you by a superior in rank. So the order has to be lawful.
Lawful.
It has to be lawful. It's an offense to disobey a lawful order given to you by a superior in rank, either orally, in writing, or by authorized signals
Signal.
on parade. That is what the law says. So yes, Mr. Cole, if the order is unlawful, you can disobey it. If the order is unlawful, you can disobey it. Now the next issue I want to, no time almost on us. The next issue I want to address is this. I saw a young man posted a termination or a dismissal under 34-1. And the story is, based on what I'm told, the story is he was never charged. He was never paraded in front of any officer to allege any misconduct. But he received a letter from the man who sits in the chair of the commissioner to say that his services are terminated under Section 34-1 of the Police Act, Chapter 70, Chapter 1601. Now let me read what 34-1 says, and then I'm going to explain. 34-1 says the commissioner may at any time discharge any subordinate officer or constable from the force on the grounds that having regards to the conditions of the force, the usefulness of the subordinate officer or constable thereto, and any other relevant circumstance, such discharge is desirable in the public interest. Now, on the face of it may tell you that the commissioner has the authority to discharge, but this thing has been challenged years now, repeatedly, and in every case that it is challenged, the persons challenging have won because the courts have held repeatedly that the person has a right to be heard, and you can't just terminate a person's service under 34-1, and all of those persons who have challenged have won damages against the government. In other words, they got to pay them a lot of money. And if you recall, not so long ago, the Attorney General made a public statement about the unlawful act of policemen, which causing the government to pay a lot of money. I hope it gets to the stage where with egregious acts like these, that the government asks the same persons who are committing these acts, or at least threaten them, that when they do these things, they will be made personally liable. But how can you be dismissing persons under this act that has been challenged repeatedly? Repeatedly, the cases are there. But again, these people are lazy. These people are done, intellectually lazy. Let me say this. This goes way back, way back. This is not now. I don't know if you remember, CC. Back in the day, perhaps in the late 70s, 80s, I can't remember exactly when, maybe in the 80s, Assistant Commissioner Cyril Bollers. You had Assistant Commissioner Hilton Cummins, Senior Superintendent Seeley. Can't remember his first name. Those persons were dismissed.
John Seeley.
Those persons were dismissed in public interest in those days. They challenged it. They have all won those cases. This court held that you cannot dismiss a person without giving them a chance to be heard. It's natural justice. More recently, over the years, I remember in 2018, I had an interaction with one of the senior officers of the DPP's chambers when I was the chairman of the Police Service Commission, and this was brought to my attention that, look, they can't do that. Please tell them, because the government is paying a lot of money over these illegal acts. And I had a meeting with the hierarchy of the force at the time and told them, explained to them. And so therefore, here it is again. These people, they come and they gone back to this same nonsense again, violating the rights of policemen. What is your take on it? I saw you write something in our group. What is your take on it?
Paul, I believe and honestly believe that you can do effective policing without God. And if you want to do policing, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Gita, read those holy books. The right to be heard started in Genesis. It started in the beginning. When Adam and Eve committed themselves, the Lord knew what they did. But he didn't pass judgment right away. He called them and asked them what took place, what play out, to use common term, before passing judgment. And before you pass judgment on anybody, hear their side of the story. Give them a proper hearing. If it means that they have to question witnesses and all kind of story there, give them the right to be heard before you pass sentence. And even we, in our days life, in our family situation, we must ensure that in dealing with matters, we must listen to the other side of the story before we pass judgment. So I'm saying the right to be heard is a God-given right, and no one must be allowed to take away that right from us.
Well said. You know, many years ago, I think I have that document somewhere around.
Peter
You
Peter
recall
Britton, Peter
Peter
Britton had
Britton, exactly, and that was a
the
report
right
to
to be heard.
Peter Britton did a paper that we used as a guide on the right to be heard. I got that thing somewhere, I'm sure. To be right to the heard, maybe I looked it and passed it on. Because again, as we say, we get this knowledge, and I think we need to make sure that these people, whether they want to accept it or not, that is a matter for them. But I'm sure that you have a lot of the younger ones who are glad for these type of information, and they have reached out to me and have asked me. A matter of fact, there's a specific issue that I want to close by addressing, because I was asked about the withdrawal. Who grants approval for an inspector to withdraw from the Guyana police force? And I did the research again. You know, we don't want to come here and tell people the wrong thing. And I said, and I'm going to address it this morning. It's Section 33 of the Police Act 1601, and Section 33 says that subject to subsection 2, an inspector, subordinate officer, or constable may withdraw from the force on giving to the commissioner at least 6 months' notice in writing of his intention to do so. Then they go on to say, provided that an inspector, with the prior consent of the minister in writing, and a subordinate officer or constable, with the prior consent of the commissioner also in writing, may withdraw from the force without giving such notice. So for the persons who ask, the question is, if an inspector, and they said inspector above, but the law does not address above. The law says inspector. If an inspector wants to withdraw, and we know that from the years you give 6 months notice, but it is saying that if you don't want to give 6 months notice, then the minister has to get involved, and the minister perhaps has to waive that in the case of an inspector. But in the case of a sergeant, corporal, constable, the commissioner is the one who has the authority to waive that. The law is silent on if an officer wants to withdraw. I remember not so long ago when I was chairman of the Police Service Commission, that issue came up in respect to officer, and we couldn't find any law relating to what happens if an officer wants to withdraw. And basically what happens, they use the same Section 33, even though Section 33 only caters for inspectors and below. So for the persons who ask that question, I hope it is clear. In any event, you have the reference, which is Section 33 of the Police Act, Chapter 16:01. So you can do your research, you can do your reading, you can take it perhaps to the legal advisor and those persons for them to advise you how you can operate. We have passed the hour. CC, in closing, is there anything you want to say? But let me say this before we go. We wanted to talk about a statement from the man who sits in the chair about police promotion examination. Time has run out on us. So next week, I think we will try to deal with that and other issues that may crop up then. We still have the issue in relation to the traffic that we want to deal with. But every time we plan to deal in these things come up which we feel are important enough for us to address. And that is what we keep kicking it down the road and keep keeping it down the road. But I think the one in relation to police um, promotion examinations is something that we will need to address at the next episode. So any closing remark from you, CC?
Paul, as you mentioned, so many things that we really want to discuss, but the police force is an evolving organization. So many things coming into the public domain and they are so important that we have to address them. But that shouldn't deter us, from bringing the issues to the public, bringing it to the attention of the police members of the police force, and we know they're listening. The whole attempt is to make the police force deliver the highest quality of service to the people that is swore to serve and protect. We're not hitting at anybody, as the case may be, but we're just trying to influence their behavior to deliver the highest quality of service to the police force in accordance with the laws of Guyana.
Well said, well said. Now, let me just close by saying again, I always close with this COVID warning. My friends, my listeners, my colleagues, the numbers are going in the wrong direction. I don't think we should be surprised because we had big activities, what we call, some people might say super spreader activities, Linden, the Exedap at the stadium. We had event at the national park. We had the Easter activities. And so therefore, I am not surprised. I don't know if you are, that the numbers, and I'm talking here about COVID, infection numbers are going in the wrong direction. One day it was 90 something, 30 something, 50 something. So I want to close by cautioning all of us to make sure that we follow the protocol. The virus is still very much with us. However, the way how you see some people operating, you will think that COVID is something of the past. It is not. And it is incumbent upon each and every one of us to protect ourselves at all times. So I want to close by imploring you to protect yourself and to follow the COVID protocol so we can once again see the numbers going in the correct direction. So have a good day all, and God willing, enjoy your independence activities. Remember again, COVID is still here, so even as you enjoy the activities, remember the protocol. And God's willing, next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and I'm punctual, so at 11 o'clock sharp, I'll be here again to talk to you on another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Bye for now.